Good? Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so we were saying the learning principles, which I had before. Some of this stuff has been created, but it ended up sort of fitting, so that's where I... Okay, then the structures. Stewardship groups are communities of practice, basically in the civic context. So they're organized, let's say affordable housing, or let's say energy efficiency, and it could be at the neighborhood level. It could be people are saying, the public utility give us information on our energy use. We can aggregate it at the 4,000 people that live in this neighborhood. And we could say as a goal we want to reduce that by 20% in 2 years. And we could say a strategy for doing that is to have a community of practice of people who are passionate about energy efficiency. You know, kids who are talking about global warming, da-da-da, parents who are concerned. And like the guy, the musician guy who raised his hand, that was his issue was global climate because his 4-year-old daughter and he's thinking of her future. So there probably would be at least 20, 30 people interested in that, maybe a core group of 5 or 6. Be a stewardship group on energy efficiency, finding out what is the city, the state, what are other cities doing, what could we do in our neighborhood, having little gatherings, putting on events, little, you know, different things they could do at the local gym, whatever, a little film, show, you know. They could do a lot of things to get people engaged in the notion of energy efficiency in fun ways, not just information ways, and practical ways, working with the city to, you know, different things we can do. Some technology vendor who has something about measuring the electricity use in your house, and people who sell cords that would make it easy to turn off the computer without losing your data or something. So that's the kind of, and then just multiply that out. There could be one on health or education, different things. Either at the neighborhood level, if the scale didn't make sense, they could do it across neighborhoods. But if ultimately the city would consist of a constellation of these stewardship groups that would be operating at either neighborhood and or city levels on the whole round of civic issues, plus others that people make up. But the idea here is we cannot get civic learning unless we organize for it. And we don't have those civic infrastructure now. What we need is we have a bunch of multi-stakeholder groups. Usually they focus on a project. Usually it's a limited group. They don't understand the different ways of learning together, the ways of engaging people in different ways. They're not thinking multi-level from neighborhood to city to cross-city, much less national to other cities and other countries. And they don't know how to use technologies to support these social processes, etc. So we're talking about being much more systematic, intentional, and effective about helping people organize for action learning on civic issues. Quantum leap in terms of capability. That's what that is. The city is as a learning system is a constellation of these stewardship groups combined with all the typical institutions that take ideas and implement them. But we're trying to infuse those institutions now with this learning ethic, right? This connection ethic. And when we used to talk about culture change in organizations, we were talking about with Brooke at McKinsey a long time ago, and talking about, you know, you could have collaborative cultures, you could try to change the institution. Well, we talked about if you have communities of practice, you have microcultures, you have new social contexts for creating a culture of a certain ethic. Do that and let the communities in some sense influence the institution over time. So that...
Can I just ask you, is this like a kind of a dream that you have? Is the book about like a sort of a vision? Or is it like in the form of like an advisory document for the council or something like that? Yeah.
It's a dream. It's a dream in one sense. But I have done a lot of work on this. The work I've done with the TAM in institutional context, the work with the TAM, learning all the things I've learned from working with the TAM is about communities of practice and how it's being applied, and then the underlying principles that are applied all throughout here. But also working with Annie Casey Foundation, National Cancer Institute, and McKinsey looking at City of Chicago. So I've got a lot of good examples of this. So I'm not saying this is all new. People are doing it. We're not doing it intentionally, systematically, and effectively as we can be doing it. That's why it's a new discipline. It's emergent. People are doing it, but they don't have a name for it. It's just like when you talked about communities of practice. You know, you say they're everywhere. And organizations are kind of, people fast, they finally have some language for it. And now they can do things that they couldn't do before. So it's a dream for me personally, that there's a personal thing about that. But there's also, I'm seeing more and more of it out there. And there's different disciplines, like communities of practice, et cetera, that help us start to explain it. Is that, so it's an advisory in the sense that that's why I want, the main point isn't for this to be a book so much as it to be a community of people who have specific initiative, 2 or 3 cities, 2 or 3 issues, 2 or 3 levels. That's really what I want to, social movement is the point.
Okay. No, I mean, because just